Ooh, hey, we're trying out some new gear. How you guys doing? We're 35 people in. So Charles is going to join us for this special podcast. I just want to make sure you guys can hear me. I got a new piece of equipment that's going to allow us to like podcast, and my camera's a little crooked. I want to see if it's on standing on something. That's why. Um, I'll give you a little taste of boys. Just keep the spirit of John Singleton up in here. Hey, yeah, so everything's great. Everybody can hear. All right, so if you're watching this, then you got the news because it's in the header. But today, John Singleton was taken off life support, age of 51. He has transitioned. He is an ancestor. He's joined the ancestors. He's now an ancestor, and just this one hurt me much more than Nipsey Hussle because he's of my generation now. Clearly, both far too soon. The similarity is that both icons within the South Central Los Angeles community, and did so much. So we want to take what we have to energy we have to send it out to his fans, his family, allow us to share our thoughts and as I have Charles Woods I'll be calling him in a second, and Barry, his brother, who worked in LA for so many years, is also going to join us. So everybody, so traditionally we do the roll call. What area code? I'm in 215. And there's something going on. I just have to check. That's 336. Pensacola, Florida. We still got some East Coast people here. Hopefully it's not too late for y'all. We're gonna try and discover our format now that we have the ability to bring guests in. I don't have to talk as much directly, and clearly we want this one to have lasting value. I'm just seeing what's going on here. With the Prime Video, they want me to know who's in something. I don't know. This makes no damn sense. Resume. All right. Okay. Doing our best here, John. 305, 312, a lot of threes. 213, that's LA. Chicago in the house, 305, Lola. Well, Welfare Dad, actually, honestly, when they announced it, I didn't think it was the way they announced it. I didn't, that it was going to be, it was not a shock when you get the news that someone's had a stroke. It's a life altering experience. I wanted to pull through, but the way usually you would see somebody taking control of the social media, like even and they said, like, if he wasn't Mick Jagger, his ass would have been dead, but within a day, people were on his social media saying, thanks for your prayers, I'm doing better. This wasn't happening with John's social media. So it made me feel that, other things were taking away from those kind of high spirits, so that's when prayer went into effect. And 51's to our health issues and things like that. Stroke is notes, and I played John's quote as when tree fall. My biggest thing is who's going to take the weight, and I think that's what the void that was felt with Nipsey Hussle was. It's like, wow, this person's done so much, it was doing good, and now he's no longer here. And I think regular traditional media has a tendency to kind of use that as a way to kind of reinforce the fact that we have so few soldiers, but upon reflection, my own experience, and then recently we put up Del Jones. This is not something that started yesterday. And at the best level, a lot of John Singleton's work is there to remind us of who we are, what the struggle is always and has been, and must be maintained. So I think his loss should be an opportunity for people to look back at his body of work and just the miraculous forces that converged to make him that person. Literally, he was among. I mean, I'll put it on my Instagram. There was a New York Times. They got to have us after Spike Lee broke, which She's Got to Have It. It's sort of and hip hop culture in general reinvigorated the film industry in a sense that now everybody was looking for the next young guy after Spike. And Spike was coming from the East Coast and independently minded way of doing things. He ended up at Columbia making School Days and and then went on and we're about to hit the Blu-ray for Do the Right Thing came out and all that stuff. And John was still in college at the time. But it's interesting how things kind of converge in the sense that I just spent the last couple hours watching the entirety of that archive on American TV interview. And it's a blessing that he sat for 3 hours and gave his whole oral history, stories behind every one of his films and his upbringing, because I think at the end of the day, knowing that this is an ongoing struggle, ongoing fight, just to reassert our identity as Black folks, our contributions to the culture, the fact that we are the culture. We can't let this day go by without giving John his props and pouring some liquor out. So I'll give you one. I wanted to go longer, but we're on a time schedule. But I'll share 3 memories I have of John Singleton. Not all of them good, but very positive. In a positive, I'll stay on the positive side of things. So, like I said, this hurts a lot more because it's like John literally is a year older than me. And watching his oral history, we came up the same way. He's almost like a LA version of me, except he was way more into comic books, and he was way more into reading and defined exactly what he wanted to do at a very early age. But he had some transformative things that happened early on in his life where he kind of self-anointed himself as the guy. He said he came from a working class, middle class background in Inglewood, and at an early age he discovered Spielberg and George Lucas, who were not the strong influences for me, but I can see how growing up in Los Angeles, that captivated a lot of people. There are a great deal of filmmakers of my generation whose first introduction to film was Star Wars. And he said the minute he saw Star Wars, he was captivated. He saw an interview with Steven Spielberg on 2020, and he decided that was going to be his life. He was originally going to be a veterinarian, and then he decided film was going to be his thing. And he, from a very early age, from doing flip books in class, he just had it in his mind that he was not only going to be a filmmaker, but he was going to be the youngest filmmaker. And when he was in college, undergrad at USC, he decided he was going to go to USC because of George Lucas, and early on had internships, and everything was taking him on the right path. And he was just completely directed to getting a film made. And by the time he graduated, he had a script finished and ready to go. And that's when it was no longer a fluke. Like She's Got to Have It may have been seen as like the potential beginning of something. And he maintained relationships with a lot of people in LA by interning with on the Arsenio Hall show and working on Pee-wee's Playhouse with Paul Rubens and Larry Fishburne. All these people that he met at the earliest stages helped plant that seed in his mind. Not only can I write this script, but these are the people that I want to be in it. And what's interesting, if you watch the interview, Russell Simmons is actually responsible. He said he took a meeting with Russell Simmons and Russell Simmons jumped the gun and announced that he was going to make Boys in the Hood as his first film and at Columbia. And then Stephanie Lane apparently heard this and circumvented the deal. He ended and somehow insisted, one of the few black executives and also roughly the same age as John, asserted that this film get made, and the rest is history. So I have tons of John Singleton stories. You know, he used to rent videos from Video Library. We had a mail order situation, and one of his favorite movies was Pijot, excuse me, Pijot, which is a Brazilian film about a kid, and it was extremely hard to get VHS tape. It literally cost the store $100 just to find it. It took me, I was personally responsible for buying it, and it probably took us a year to get a copy, and then eventually we were able to have copies at both our locations, and we rented one to John, never came back. We had to chase him for about 8 months to get him to pay us $100 for the tape. And then the other John Singleton video store clerk story would be when I was working at Virgin Megastore. He would come in all the time and had a lot of privilege. I'll give him that, because he brought back a Criterion Laserdisc of, I think it was Citizen Kane or something. It was like a box set, or Magnificent Ambersons. It was in the box. And, the exchange policy is if you return it in its resellable condition, you get a credit. So he brought this thing back. It was obviously well watched and well used and beat up all the corners and everything. And the store gave him a credit for it, even though it had been probably a year old or something. And it literally was under the counter the whole time I worked there. And it was like, yeah, this is what this mofo brought back. And then one night, when Boys in the Hood Laserdisc came out, I had a full circle moment with John. This is positive. Had a full circle moment with John Singleton, because when I was, and full circle moments all year, by the way, I'm really excited about this year for me personally. But it's not about me, it's about John. So anyway, he was going to do a signing of the Boys in the Hood Laserdisc. And Laserdiscs at that time were literally $100, Criterions. And he was going to, it was originally going to be a Saturday afternoon, and he was going to be for like 2 hours signing copies of his Laserdisc. And then at the last minute, he said, I can't do a Saturday afternoon. I can do a Thursday night from 8 to 10. Right. So I'm working there part-time and going to film school at the American Film Institute. And they said, okay, well, we're going to do the book signing on your shift, or the DVD Laserdisc signing on your shift. Right. So I say, oh, great. I get to meet John Singleton. Of course, Thursday night, 8 o'clock, nobody's there for 2 hours. It's me and John standing there, like staring at each other. And I was just shy. I really should use the opportunity to like talk and get to know him, but I'm just eyeing him down, like how am I going to get this guy's place? Because we're roughly the same age. I had a real sense of entitlement. Like, I would talk to the old time filmmakers all day, but somebody my age, I probably didn't feel I could learn much from at the time. So what was interesting about that was, and then what was strange was when Charles had to do his big move, and he gave me a whole stack of these Laserdiscs, and we were like salvaging things. And we took a stack of them to the Princeton Record Exchange, and one of them was a sealed copy of Boys in the Hood. And we let them buy it from Charles for literally 30 cents. And I said, shit, I thought I salvaged it. When we got back in the car, I didn't save it. They got it for 30 cents. So I was like mad. But then this is where things are good. John was coming 2 years ago to premiere Snowfall in Philadelphia. And because I knew he was coming out a week's notice, I was able to get 2 copies of the Criterion Laserdisc. I had one personally that I already owned, and I was able to get another sealed copy to replace Charles. So you actually see one of the 3 or 4 videos with John Singleton on the channel is him signing copies of the Boys in the Hood Laserdisc. So that's that was a long time for me, and that's the story behind that. Like, I literally was making $10 an hour 25, 26 years ago when the Laserdisc came out. I was literally 4 feet away from the guy, didn't talk to him, couldn't afford to buy one. And then 25 years later, well, I get to have him sign it personally and then film it so that you all could see it. So it's kind of a full circle moment, something I wanted to share. Okay, so anyway, I want to get Charles on the line, and we'll talk about his filmography a little bit, and then we'll bring Barry in. So this will be a good time. If you have any questions, Charles, this is the first time back in probably a month we've had Charles, but we can take some questions, and anything you want to, please feel free to type in, and we'll deal with that, and then we can jump into the other stuff. Hey, Charles Woods, are you on the line? Can everybody hear Charles? Oh, you can hear me in the background. Yeah, there's a little delay there. Wow, it sounds like we're like professional radio show. Caller, could you please turn down your radio? So, well, first off, welcome back. I'm glad to hear your voice. We talk all the time, but this is the first time you've been back on the show, on our podcast. Oh, you can't hear him. Wait, hang on. Wait, nobody can hear him or no? How about just Charles? No, you're coming through the board. No one can hear you. This is interesting. Okay, so all right. Let me check something too. Hang on one second. I got two headphones here. Testing. We tested this. Hang on. Can you hear me? Okay. All right. I can't even hear through this this headphone. Hang on. I'm about to hit record on there too. Okay, let me see what's going on. All right, I can certainly hear you, right, Charles? Okay. Can hear you, but not Charles. Interesting. All right. Well, I got a vamp. Let's we'll do some technical difficulties. We'll go back. I'll play our interview while I'm working this out. Wait, wait, there's something very simple to this, I'm sure. Wait, because you could hear. All right, this is but Charles, you could hear at the beginning, you could hear the John Singleton interview, correct? That I was playing at the beginning. Yeah, YouTube, you could hear that, correct? Okay, all right. So, okay, well, it's the same board, same soundboard. Hang on. All right. Hey, we're having a little technical issue. Let me see. I didn't mute you. How about now? Charles, say something. Is that I pushed a button? Anybody hear him? Did anybody hear Charles? Say something again. No, nobody's responding yet. No. Okay. Let's see. All this money being spent on these on the sound system. Let me see. Okay. Let me see. It's coming through this way. All right. Okay. All right. Charles, please talk. Okay. Let me see. How do we fix this quickly? Okay. All right. I'll do it this way. Hang on. I gotta. Well, trust I can hear me. Let me just put you on speaker again. Hang on. All right, hang on. Yeah. See. technology. This is the way we did it before. All right. Are you Charles? Are you able to see the questions?
Yeah, I can see the question.
Oh wait, now
Or other. Hello?
wait, that's strange. I can hear you through the board again. Can you hear them? Can you? Wait, let me see. This might still work. That's incredibly weird. Oh, you went. Oh, you're on Bluetooth now. Okay, I see what happened. All right, so you're coming through on Bluetooth. Uh, say something again, Charles.
Testing. Testing. 1, 2, 1, 2.
Okay, so I don't even need that. All right. Okay, I think everybody can hear him now, right? So
I
speaker.
see Joshua Tate
Got a speaker.
or
Oh.
Love My Flow says we hear Charles.
Yeah, you're coming through on Bluetooth through my portable speaker. So we're the same way we've always been.
Hi to you, Miss Britton. Can you hear me?
Everybody can hear you. So and you can hear me, right? Everything's coming through the same dopey thing now. All right, so let's go through some questions and just let people know how you're feeling. You've been doing, like keep your privacy, but just tell people what's your energy.
Well, it's been a little better. First of all, peace and blessings to the Reelblack family, and heartfelt sympathies to the John Singleton family. Get that out first. I see People Bryson also may have suffered a stroke. So,
Oh my goodness. Okay.
What happens is when you're in my condition, I'm laid up. Every man's death reminds you of your mortality.
Yes.
And so, the thing is, what keeps me going when I have my energy is just reading and studying, and that's been very, very exciting for me. I'm working on 3 or 4 books at the same time. One aimed at kids. I was chased out of the school system, but I could do things with the kids that highly paid professional teachers weren't able to do, and that's to teach them. And I was very proud of that. You got to make learning exciting. But I'm hanging in there, Mike, and I just want the Reelblack family to know I have the strength I'm getting. Barry, who's going to call in, and you. Special thanks to you for all the help you've given me. I appreciate you, my brother.
Well, we appreciate you, brother man. And I'm finally looking at these notes. So I turned off the prime. Is the picture any sharper? Is the sound any clearer? It says you guys said I was buffering before. So if the technology is where it needs to be, let's jump into it. So when you think about John Singleton's body of work, what can you say to the younger folks who weren't there to experience Boys in the Hood on opening day, or the release of Rosewood, or the release of Poetic Justice, or Four Brothers, or Hustle and Flow? What does it all add up to? How would you define his body of work, Charles?
Well,
Shaft, yeah.
And I want people to understand me very, very clearly. My analysis of film in this context of white supremacy is that it's very compromised. The Black representation is not truly who we are, but it's a representation, as Stuart Hall points out, of who we are. It's not really us, but we have to give a great deal of credit, a great deal of thanks to people like John Singleton and the Spike Lee's who are trying to do the best they can, going against a society that does not care for Black people, has no intentions of putting anything on that screen that's going to change the status quo. But
Right. And that's
get stories like A Baby Boy, A Poetic Justice, Boys in the Hood, which was a monumental film. It just shows you that an effort was made, a great effort against the odds, because these people control the chessboard. And what my technology book will explain is how film, the greatest of all the arts in terms of messaging a propagandistic philosophy, is used to control us and to keep the status quo system of white supremacy and hegemony.
right.
But we have artists fighting and doing the best they can. But it's a limited, very circumscribed position they're placed in.
Right. And I think the reason I wanted to take the time tonight to honor and discuss John's work is 51's too young for anybody to die. I think when I first heard he had a stroke, I felt that him being a pioneer, he came into Hollywood. Now he was not an outsider in the same respect that others were. He was brought directly in at the age of 19. He was being given the opportunity to, and 22, the first youngest person to be nominated for a Writing Academy Award and Directing Academy Award, right? So a lot of pressure put on him at a very early age over time, and big struggles. I mean, I don't know just offhand how many films. I know Makes Me Want to Holler was one thing that he had in development. How many things that went through the pipeline that didn't get finished, but on average, he was making a film every couple years. And when he was here to promote Snowfall, he was excited because he felt that there was a support system there that would enable him to play and make films, like basically a feature film every 2 weeks, is what Snowfall was for him, So I think he was very fulfilled at the end, but years, you have to say 20 years of just fighting to get vision across. I think it definitely took a toll, and you see it in other ways. This was a quote at the beginning, like I think Spike, he kind of weaves in and out of working within the system. But to me, his greatest success was when he completely, I think he always had a desire to prove something to Hollywood and share something with this audience that he always felt existed, like, to tell our stories, to be representative of common people or people that he grew up seeing. And I just feel like over time, that kind of trying to prove yourself every time out takes a toll. But I think for me, the biggest, I enjoy a lot of his films. The biggest success for me, the happiest I felt, was when he produced Hustle and Flow and ended up, Hard Out Here for a Pimp won the Oscar, but he introduced some new talent to Hollywood. But what are your thoughts? What are your feelings? First off, on the hell, what having to be a pioneer does in terms of the body of work, or and what are your favorite John Singleton film moments?
Well, Boys in the Hood was an exciting film. One of the more recent films he did, or was a part of, Chef and Four Brothers.
Mm.
Four Brothers was an exciting film. I loved his Poetic Justice. I thought that was great because I enjoyed the romantic thing of seeing Blacks in a romantic film.
Yeah.
And having Tupac is someone who many people felt was destined a superstar in film.
Oh, without question.
Many people compare what happened to Tupac, like what happened to James Dean. But John Singleton, as I said, he's one of the blacks who was in the position of making movies. But he tried to do the best he could under the circumstances of what is the prevailing situation the black artist has to face in this society. Mm-hmm. They're only allowed you to go so far, but with that limitation, he's given us some good work.
Yeah, he introduced a lot of great talent in front of the camera. Not only Ice Cube, I had the privilege of, which was exciting. I talked to O'Shea Jackson Jr. last Friday, and to see that this thing that was birthed, 1989, 90, 91, now it's become intergenerational. Having kids in the business was exciting, and we spoke a little bit about John Singleton, but to see I don't know if there's a finish line, but the doors that have been opened, since the arrival of Boys in the Hood and making, I think his whole job was to make, and his whole dream, I think, here's a kid who grew up wanting to make, I was watching his biography, he's reading from the age of 3. He was at 6th grade, he was reading at a college grade level. And by the age of 9, he had decided he wanted to be a film director. So he carried out his vision. And then beyond that, the question is, how do we continue? Because he also, in addition to reflecting his ideals, values, and culture, he also introduced global audiences to the work of Maya Angelou with the Poems in Poetic Justice. He was the first person in a mainstream Hollywood film to talk about Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, which is he uses a quote of hers at the beginning of Baby Boy, and then all the South Central music, Boys in the Hood, captures the energy and spirit of gangster rap, but puts it within the context of a traditional film narrative, which was inspired by his life. So, I mean, what other contributions do you feel he brought to the culture through his casting? Music, Stanley Clarke. What are his collaborators? I just want to touch on. And Michael Jackson, Alexander brings up, Remember the Time, great music video. And the first time you saw that many black people in a music video acting, and ancient Egypt in MTV. There's a great responsibility he felt to remain positive in a great deal of his work till we get to Shaft. But anyway, go ahead.
Well, I think what is reinforced about what I'm trying to say is the fact that you mentioned 2 films. Mm-hmm. Baby Boy, and I don't know if you mentioned the other one, but Rosewood.
Rosewood, yeah.
Okay, so the thing is, here are 2 films that come out of the consciousness of, one, the writings of a Frances Cress Welsing, and how in the society, the black family is forced to raise not black men, but black boys, because black men are threat to this society. And then you take, for instance, Rosewood. Rosewood is a history they tried to bury. You're talking about 1923, Rosewood, Florida. Here's a brutal history, the atrocity that was committed against over 200 black families in this town. They were thriving, and just based on a BS lie that some black man tried to rape a white woman, lives were destroyed. This is something they wanted to hide. And when John Singleton decided to make it a story, the truth be told is that it's something, it was horrifying, but it goes to the point of how film can be used to raise the black consciousness, but it's never allowed to raise it with the truth, the real truth that history can reveal if we really are allowed to go into the history of what this country has done to the African American, the black man. But they made the attempt. The attempt was great. The goal is to have the context of a black film society, a black film colony, where we can allow the artistry of our artists, like a Spike Lee, a John Singleton, a Jordan Peele now, to help bring our consciousness to a level where it will really provide for black liberation. These are things that are to be discussed, but you take a John Singleton, and to his credit, he made an attempt. And one last comment I want to make is many people forget that John Singleton, you talk about how he held on to this material that was done by Orson Welles. He kept it out of circulation for a long time, and he finally brought it back.
Well, he got over. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, well, Matt Nixon and Anderson's also, but it was Orson Welles' record that John Singleton broke. Orson Welles,
in terms of his age,
for 50 years, was the youngest to be nominated for Best Director of a film, and John Singleton at 44 was nominated in '92 for Boys in the Hood.
Okay.
Which to this date still stands. He's the youngest director ever to be nominated for Best Director.
I'm trying to shut down some of these windows. People saying.
Let me just give a shout out right quick
to
my brother, Welfare Dad. As soon as I feel I got some stuff for him that help me get these books out.
Okay.
As soon as I feel better, we're going to make a date. I keep promising them, brother. A shout out to Welfare Dad and Miss B, Barbara, to his family.
Yeah, I can't reach the woman in Florida. She sent me a couple handwritten notes. I have to send personal thanks to that. It was always nice to get a handwritten note. I hope she's doing well. But that makes me think of a couple things in terms. I mean, just the level. Again, I think you never know who's watching, and ultimately we're in a position where we can record things and share our stories, and you never know how or who they're helping to inspire. So that's why we try to post things every day. You never know who you're affecting, how that information, entertainment, and I think it's just not feel bad, but just how do we carry on the legacy? Who's going to take the weight? And please understand what his intentions were when he entered Hollywood. It's not. I mean, he clearly saw it as a game, and if you look at the 3 hours, he's saying, like, my intention was I'm going to be the #1 draft pick out of my school. I'm going to do everything I need to be that youngest director to be nominated for an Oscar. He had a whole list of things on his list, and but at the same time, once he got there, he continued and was neck and neck basically with Spike in terms of, like, there was a thing where basically every year you could expect a new movie from Singleton, you could expect a new movie from Spike. Eventually it caught up to him with Rosewood, though. I think he that's what slowed him down. And I clearly remember around the time of Shaft, he was at Urban World Film Festival on a panel, clearly complaining that even though his movies had made money, they were done on a low budget, and that was Hollywood's way to justify that he wasn't qualified to direct big budget franchise movies. And this upset him because, his classmate was Bryan Singer, who basically was handed the keys to the kingdom. A lot of white folks who were making movies right out of Sundance had never really worked within the system, that were sort of being put in front of line. He was no longer flavor of the month. They weren't looking at his profitability factor. And he was basically at that point, how do I stay in this, make sure not only that my films have a consciousness level, but also make money for these people so I can continue to operate, And I think that's when Too Fast, Too Furious happened and Shaft happened. Those were sort of like things that he did to prove that similar to Spike doing Inside Man, that he was viable, that he could make entertainment that appealed to a broader audience.
Well, I just want to make a comment on something that I believe it was Joshua Pate.
Mm-hmm.
He brought up higher learning.
Yes.
And you mentioned John Singleton and how in many ways he was like Spike Lee.
Mm-hmm.
But with higher learning, which Singleton exposed in that, is what we're seeing a lot of today with this tribalism, the vitriol and the violent hate that we have with this white nationalism.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the film, he's saying, wake up, wake up. They're on the campus. And
yeah.
It's about, what's going on. There's so much of what was in that film back then is so vividly clear today that it's still going on.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, it's sort of School Days touched on similar things, but it was an all black school. Higher learning was reflective of his experience at USC, and Tupac was the original. Tupac passed away before they could do it, or whatever. Ice Cube replaces him in that one, and there's some other actors that were supposed to be in it that didn't make the final cut, but still willing to play the game. You just have it's a love. If it's a love in your heart to make movies and tell stories, you want them to be at the highest level. And he had very clear. You should, I don't want to give the whole interview that he does away. He had very clear mentors. The fact that he started so young, he was in that pack. Somebody asked what his relationship with Spike Lee was. He was a film student. They tell the story. They both tell the same story. He was a film student at USC when Spike was showing She's Gotta Have It in LA. And he said, all right, I'm next. Watch out. When he met Spike pulled him aside. He introduced himself. He pulled him aside. What did you think? Because he was primarily interested in what Black people had to say about She's Gotta Have. And he said, watch out. I'm going to USC. I'm going to do the same thing. And then when he said, when Do the Right Thing came out, he was so blown away. He couldn't even walk over to Spike. He was just back to the drawing board, So there was a healthy rivalry there, I'm sure. There are plenty of behind the scenes stories. Obviously, they both work with a lot of the same actors, and that could be a very interesting. Like if we ever get our channel, Charles, we'll do like a 30 for 30 show, and we'll get some young filmmaker to talk about the impact that Spike and John Singleton had on their lives. Similar to the way filmmakers talk about how sports figures had on their lives. We can have a Spike and John Singleton documentary, how they went back head to head for a couple of years there. Like Larry Bird and Magic Johnson, there was a Spike Lee and John Singleton rivalry to an extent.
What's interesting is
hang on, we're getting a note. Can you guys hear or no? Okay. Somebody can hear, somebody can't hear. Okay, we're going. We're back in.
Okay. What's interesting is a lot of people asking about us,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the things that pleases me about us is the dark-skinned protagonist of that film. And I told you before, I want to see more films with darker-hued actresses, in particular, like Lupita Nyong'o. One of the most beautiful actresses who I was struck with by her beauty was the girl who played the sister in The Color Purple, Akuswa Lucia. Are you familiar with her? You remember her?
Well, they were married. John Singleton.
I didn't even know they had a brief marriage. I thought she was one of the most beautiful actresses in film, and I always loved her work. And she's a great writer.
Well, she's credited with a screenplay. Well, that's another drama for another day. There, the little family fracture there, but that's for TMZ to talk about. Yeah, they had a child together, and some little discord. No, John Singleton was a player. Is that what you're saying? He also was connected with Tyra Banks. Is it time to bring? Is it time to bring Barry on?
Yeah, because we were talking about John Singleton maybe a few nights ago, and I had asked, had he heard that Singleton had a stroke? He said, no, I didn't hear that.
Oh, don't start. No, don't go there. Don't go there. Don't go there. Hang on. I'm gonna call him now. I'll call Barry. Yeah. Don't have stroke jokes, and we're talking about Tyra Banks, please. I see where you're going, Mr. Pun.
No, but you mentioned Singleton was a player.
Yeah.
But when you in that business and you're clicking, I don't care how you look, you can pull the women.
John was okay. All right, we're calling. John led a good life. We'll put it that way. We should all be so lucky.
Hello?
Barry.
Yeah.
You're on the phone with us. This is Barry. Somebody emailed me about you. I didn't know how you're feeling. Welcome, everybody. This is Barry on the line.
Hey.
Which is Charles's brother. And we're talking about John's love relationship. So we should get you on, because you, without spreading too much gossip, you live that Hollywood lifestyle.
No, we lost a dear brother. First night, like I was telling Charles, I met him twice.
Okay.
And he's a lesson. John Singleton is a lesson for anybody aspires to be anything, not just a film director, to do anything. He, as a child, obviously had a vision, as I had. He had a vision to say, this is what I want to do. And any person out there listening who has a grandchild or a child or anybody they know, this is how you inspire today. If you have a vision, you think you know what you want to do, then that's probably what you will do if you put your mind to it. And that's what John did. 24 years old, written, directed a major motion picture, like Charles was saying, bested Orson Welles, who was a one-of-a-kind. So it makes John the same thing. So, but he had a vision, and that it should be followed. His roadmap that it should be followed.
Yeah, and unlike Wells, he wasn't exiled away because of his vision. He managed to get a lot of great things in there and introduce the world to some amazing talent. So I think as a student of the game, which he was, studying film, loving film, knowing the masters, he was not only attempting to. I mean, I just think. Well, talk about that in terms of craftsmanship, Barry. I mean,
well, in terms of craftsmanship, you got to realize writing and directing. That's the formula. If you can do those two things, you are going to make yourself very, very successful. Because writing I always believe writing is the hardest part of whole deal. The writers, I mean, maybe I say that from a standpoint of being being a writer and understanding it. The directing part, the director just takes what you've written and he just has a vision and it's a roadmap. So if you write it and direct it, well, that's what makes you Fellini, you know, it makes you one of the great, the Orson Welles. People who do that are usually, you know, are the standouts. So if I was telling somebody, a young kid out there, like I said, John went to school for this, but John made sure that he took writing very, very seriously. I think he primarily wanted to be a director because he wanted to control his vision. Most writers want to control their vision. And John got that opportunity to do that.
Right.
And now, also, something else, the lesson to be learned here. When he began, he always told to, in March, write something you know about. So he knew about his neighborhood, his hood. So that was his first thing, and that's what one thing that you're going to be successful if you write about what you know about, what you deal with, and that's why Boys in the Hood was so good. He was there, he lived that, he knew it, and that's what he wrote about. You know, the same thing with Poetic Justice. Once again, South Central. You know, something that he knew about that relationship of girl and boy, or man and woman in South Central, you know. And the same could be said for Baby Boy. These are all people that were surrounding him, and these are the things that he wrote about. And that's why I think those three right there in particular are some of his best work, because he was steeped in that. He knew that. Okay, he knew what he had. You know, he had that kernel.
Well, he was a brilliant writer, well written, incredibly intelligent. When I look at Boys in the Hood, I'm not taking anything away from it. I wish people gave Cooley High the respect as a template for that one, because to me it's sort of like his generation's version of Cooley High. I don't know who just dropped, but hopefully somebody's still on there. Who's still on the phone?
I'm still here.
Oh, Charles hung up. I'll call him in a minute. So, you know, but Cooley High and Boys in the Hood are kindred films to me, you know, and they operate at the highest level, coming of age. And I think to a certain extent, they're both sort of the kind of coming of age movie that Fellini would have made with like Eye of Vitelloni. So there is I think we all stand on the shoulders of each other. And then the other point I wanted to make was, you know, being a graduate of USC, I think it opens the door for a Ryan Coogler to be in Hollywood, operating at the high level with Black Panther and Creed. You know, these are people that you know, have infiltrated the system to an extent where their face is welcome. You know, and they're not only delivering that high-powered entertainment, but putting butts in seats. So, and Ryan Coogler, you know, is another USC graduate who's 20 years after. So, you know, I think, you know, you can't. It's just a shame that, to me, the saddest part of it is that Gordon Parks was one of John's mentors, and he lived a very long life, and it's a shame that the younger, well, by doing the Shaft movie, that John wasn't around longer to age into that and be a mentor and a symbol for the upcoming generations. Because I just think that you know, for me personally, the stories need to be shared of what this is about. It's not just about making money for people. It's about helping empower folks. And I think John never, even though he, you know, I think he has a double-pronged goal. When I look at his work, it's to make great entertainment, you know, that but make sure that the people that he wants to see it are represented and they actually pay money to see it, you know.
Well, so, it's still a term from chaos room, edutainment. That's what he did. Those films are more than just entertainment. It's like Charles was saying about Rosewood. Just about all of John's films had something other than to say than what the film was necessarily about. With that edutainment factor in there, like you said, higher learning. what was going on, giving the hippie youth to say, no, this doesn't exist in the streets. It exists in our places of people who are supposed to be speakers and people who are supposed to be learning. That same sort of pettiness and the same sort of divisiveness exists in these other places as well that we not think of it. And we're learning today with these school shootings. You know, we've been shooting, drive-by takes place in the shooting take place in schools. The violence with guns doesn't just take place in South Central, doesn't take place in the drive-by, but takes place in these schools of higher learning every place else, you know. And I think he pointed that out in his films if you watch his films, you know. So, you know, John was, he did for a short period of time on this planet, on this mortal coil, he did some fantastic stuff, I think.
Yeah.
I took Chuck earlier today that I really thought Baby Boy was an underrated film.
Okay. Well, John said, Jay McClinton 8 said, don't bash John with judgment. So I will keep my personal opinion about Baby Boy private for the purpose of this conversation. But, you know, having a better understanding, I wish I could have hung out with him more because the guy clearly had a great deal of insight. And I think his intelligence and awareness supersedes anything that he was able to put on film. I think he had such a deep understanding of the problems of America, and a great deal of his work reflects what he saw as a need. You know, but he is well versed in not only expressing it through his art, but navigating the system that exists so that he could get that work made and seen.
Well, that's the political side of filmmaking. But, you know, one thing I would like to say about John's films, that all of them that we named and listed, they're all watchable and worthwhile. Now, you may not like all of them. That's the whole together. The worthwhile, watchable films that you can discuss. And that's what film's about. That's what art is about. When you touch upon that, when you get close to it, is that you can have a discussion about it, yay or nay, but we should just sit and discuss it. And that's what I think, you know, his films, for me, you know, put that out there. Also, let's give him a lot of credit. A lot of actors, I think Regina King got her coming out as an actress in Poetic Justice.
Oh, yeah.
She takes that and steals it, you know, away from Janet. You know, and that's when we realized, I realized that Regina King is somebody to be reckoned with. And we see she has been over the last couple of years.
He had a great eye for talent, unquestionable. You know, and I mentioned already how many stars he broke. And he had a keen understanding of his audience. And he was really the first hip hop filmmaker. You know, you could say Spike, but I think Spike comes more from a jazz tradition. He, you know, like, you know, those who are old enough to remember when John Singleton came out, he came out hard. You know, he was the Hollywood made. You know, he was ready for the world, but what he brought to it was like he's taking gangster rap and he's putting that South Central experience on film. And legitimately so, because like you said, that's where he comes from. But also, what I'm just trying to get across, just his great intellect. You know, I think had he been a novelist, you may have seen it more. But I don't think there's any conversation that exists where he's not dropping some science. You know, he clearly understands and is in control. But I do think that. He had a love-hate with Hollywood. I think his best moment was when he basically said, "Fuck you, Hollywood," and came out with Hustle and Flow, because that expanded the whole galaxy and universe of what Hollywood didn't know about Terrence Howard. Hollywood didn't know about Taraji Henson on that level before Hustle and Flow. You know, so I think, you know, he was a filmmaker because he, like Wells, was handed the keys to the kingdom so early. when the rejection came, he figured out how to come back harder, whereas a lot of people um, don't survive that, you know. So, or their retreat is, let me find ways to make lower budget versions of what I'm already successful at doing, like. But I think with John eventually he ended up getting into the TV game and making some real money. But it's very interesting when you look at, because every well, you can speak on this too. Every career in Hollywood, every show business career has ups and downs, and eventually you're going to hit a bump, and you're going to have to reinvent. And I think his reinvention, as somebody who was a reliable uh, maker of blockbuster entertainment, like Four Brothers, even though it's a lower budgeted film, it's of his later career. I think it's my favorite. Like, I'm not a big Shaft fan. I'm not a big Too Fast, Too Furious fan, but Four Brothers is, to me, that's a 5-star movie.
Yeah, well, like I said, and like with Up and Flow, John, because of the success with his earlier films, he had a bank account. He had what I call a KMA account, in Hollywood. Once you make a certain amount of money, because he took $4 million of his own money.
Right.
So that shows you that he was able to go into his own pocket and say, well, listen, Hollywood, you don't want to do this, but I got my KMA account. It's my ass account.
Right.
A lot of Hollywood stars have, so I can do what I want to do. And he was successful. And, but that's what shows you that he wasn't just a guy in it for the money. He was in it for the work in it, for the need to do it.
Right.
He saw the other side of it. And what I want to say also is that for those of us like myself who are mourning his loss, because of his films that are out there, he will always be with us. Like Orson Welles. Orson Welles has been doing that like 25, 30 years.
Without question.
Because of the work, John will always be with us. And I'm like you said, I hope a lot of these young, up and coming African American Black filmmakers out there realize that.
Right.
And here's the template right here. Here's the guy, here's what you need to do, here's what you want to do. Like you said, Kugler is doing it, and here's like, we also need to recognize another contemporary of John, who's Malcolm Lee. These guys are doing it, so it's possible to do it. So just look at this guy, understand what he did, and say, I can do that too, because you can do that too if you choose to.
If you study, he was a take no shorts guy. He had to. They were, I wouldn't say waiting for him to fail, but there was an incredible amount of pressure put on that guy to succeed, and succeed he did. But I think over time, that's going to raise your blood pressure. That's going to do certain things. So.
Well, Hollywood is a lot like college, like Washington. If you want to get in that game, you got to get ready to get dirty. Okay, Hollywood and Washington D.C. are exactly alike. And we're talking big money in both cases, whether we want to recognize it or not. So if you're going to get in that game, you whatever color you are, it's a game that you got to get down and dirty. You got to stick to your guns. You got to have but you got to go in. You got to go in both of them, keeping your moral sense. That's the thing, because you can lose it. Because John didn't seem to lose his moral sense. He's going, well, I'm just going to make some money. I'll do so make some money and live, in Beverly Hills or Bel Air or whatever. No, he said, I'm going in here. I'm going to do what I want to do, what I think I can do, and if I ruffle some feathers here and there, what you do, or I'm going to get upset because they're going to throw some punches at me. He got up. Two punches up, he got back up, and 2 punches back. That's what you got to do in Hollywood. That's what you got to do in Washington. You got to do that. As long as you keep your moral senses. If you realize, I'm not trying to.
Yeah, and a certain level of audacity and confidence, knowing that he could just go back and write something, gives you a lot of power. Knowing that you have the power of the pen, it doesn't exist unless it's written. That gives you a lot of a great deal of confidence going in, where some of the other folks that got in the door in that 1990, 91 era, they're not even operating in Hollywood at all, you know. And I'll share that photo. They got to have us. There's a picture of the Hudlin brothers, Matty Rich. The year that Boys in the Hood broke, 91, was a huge golden year for Black film, and the New York Times Magazine did a cover. So you had Matty Rich, Mario Van Peebles, no women at that point. And I think out of that picture, you could say, you could argue Reggie Hudlin's still. I mean, Reggie's done a lot. He's still out there working, and Spike, and then John. But Matty kind of fell off. Mario, he's making films, but not at the same level of a New Jack City, you know. So it takes a lot to survive in this game, but and maintain, and like at the beginning of the podcast, maintain your integrity, not sell your soul, not and still be willing to want to work at the highest level and be willing to work with others, as opposed to being difficult. Which is,
well, you can also say that Boys in the Hood helped on the Hughes brothers.
The Hughes brothers, yeah, they mentioned this too. I don't think the Hughes brothers were on that cover. That's why the name didn't come up. But they're not even. I think one of the brothers just did a movie about the first dog to be domesticated. But they're they never were able to get, after Dead Presidents, they got the kibosh. They're like, no, we don't need more of that shit. So they ended up having to make American Pimp on their own, and then it's just been a bumpy ride ever since. So just on that level, John is king, survivor. And again, I wish he was around more. A lot of these guys are so busy working that they don't always have time to share their stories. So any final thoughts? Because Charles fell off the line. I'll call him back. But
no, I think, well, Charles is going to tell you the story. The first time I ran into John Singleton, I actually did a do the Arsenio Hall show.
Oh, as a PA.
Because J. Anthony Brown was working on the show at the time. And I went over there and I met John. That's the first time I met him. Yeah, well,
was he on the crew, or is he about to appear? I'm lost.
No, he's about to be on the show.
Okay, because he was a production assistant on there before he made any films. Okay, so he was a guest on the show. Just clarifying.
Yeah. And that's the first time I met him. I did see him one other time shortly with Eddie Murphy production on Paramount One. But the last time I saw him was with what Chuck was going to tell you. We were talking the other night. Is that I saw him in a bookstore with my partner at the time, Franklin. And he was with this beautiful young statuesque girl, and my partner at the time, I knew who she was, and I knew who she was with. But I didn't see him. We were walking around the bookstore in Beverly Hills, and my partner Franklin tried to hit him. I said, "No, man, she's with that guy over there." He went, "That's Singleton." I said, "Yeah." He couldn't put the two together. Hey, man, that's the price of success. But she was just beautiful and young and statuesque, John wasn't the biggest, he's kind of diminutive guy, but friendly, very friendly.
Right.
We talked with each other.
Wait, Barry, do you remember this line? Wait, I gotta bring the camera up close. I gotta do I can't get it that close. It's good to be the king. All right. Anyway, the Mel Brooks history of the world.
Good to be the king.
It's good to be the king.
It's good to be the king. Yeah, that's what I said. Well, those are the spoils of Hollywood.
Yeah.
And she appeared in Higher London.
And the work was good. Well, you're talking about Tyra Banks, of course. Anyway,
Yeah. She did,
Yeah, they have very open. I think if you read the Making a Higher Learning, they talk about how they had a relationship while they're making the film. So helps you write better, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I'll make that especially for you. But those were the 90s also. Whoa. Those were the 90s also. So we got to give it up to John for that. But anyway, and Fair is Fair. I don't know if she's, if they're still, I don't know if it's a woman or man. Fair is Fair. Thank you for tuning into the live podcast for the first time. I know we actually, before I call Charles, I need to thank everybody. We've gained over 13,000 new subscribers this month. So I don't know what we're doing, but yeah, we added a lot more new viewers. I appreciate it. This is one of the most populated live streams that we've done. So I do have to take a minute to thank folks. I mean, but our main intent, is to share the information, and hopefully, in that process, you receive it however you need to, but you leave away either feeling more proud of being Black, because everything else, it seems, that we're exposed to throughout our 24 hours every day is designed to make us feel less of ourselves. So I always want people, when they watch a Reelblack video, to feel stronger or smarter after they watch them, and then also just to make sure that the information's there. So we just want to keep the doors open on this for as long as possible, and then amplify. So that means the liking and sharing and letting people know that where they got the information from. Because a lot of you motherfuckers, you'll take our videos and then you'll crop our logo out and then you'll put it on your Instagram, and then people are like, where'd that come from? And then they don't realize that they've already been exposed to it. I mean, now I'm in the habit when I'm traveling, people already know me or they know the work, but they don't realize it because it's just a little logo in the corner of the screen. So we have to make that a little better. But yeah, so well, thank you, Barry. We're gonna when I'm in New York, we got to get together and have you on camera again.
Okay, man.
Set It Off ain't had nothing to do with no John Singleton, but it was a good film. We're not gonna hate on anybody tonight. This is love for John Singleton. Thank you, Barry. Big round. If I had my button, if the sound thing was working, be like, big round of applause. All right, we'll talk to you soon. Thank you.
All right, man.
All right, peace. I'll call Charles back. All right. No, Singleton did not do Set It Off. Gary Gray did Set It Off. That's what but it's the same time period. I'm not gonna. I mean, if it was a test, you'd fail. But
Hello?
hey, what happened? We're wrapping it up. Any final thoughts?
Oh man, you just talk to the man. My brother's the man, man. People don't know that's the man, brother. One day you got to do a dedication to, and it's Barry, not Barry.
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 My bad. I'm sorry. I got to mix up.
Man, we get together. I hope to see him soon because he's got a birthday coming up.
Mm-hmm. You had a birthday since we last talked too.
Yeah.
It's been a month since we talked.
My birthday is the day the Civil War started. And it's the day Franklin Delano Roosevelt died.
Okay.
Barry's
Barry.
got great stories. He's the man. He's helped so many people. But once again, I've said all I have to say. Just one quick comment, alluding to something one of the viewers said, the difference between Spike's films and John Singleton's film. Spike, this viewer pointed out, has more comedy in his films. Mm-hmm. I think John's films were, yes indeed, much more serious, and he didn't have the coonery and buffoonery that a lot of Spike Lee's films have.
Spike's not going to want to call with you.
Like that.
Yeah, I'm not going to be able to get Spike on the line with you if you're going to keep talking like that. Spike, we love you. I mean,
you know. I have to be filtered sometimes, but I have no qualms about telling these guys.
Look, you can say whatever you want.
I feel because the truth shall set you free.
Well, and I think open and honest criticism makes it makes it better. It makes people more like you can choose. Look, who are we? Everybody can say what they want to say.
One of the viewers also said it's all relative. Everything's relative. Everyone's got an opinion, just like everyone's got something on the back side. Call it a-hole,
Well, see, look, I respect your opinion, Charles. Now we're going off track because you back it up with facts. It's just not you're not triggering people when you say certain things, and we're going to discuss that down the road. I'm just saying you're compromising my show business career if you're too hot with it, you have to counterbalance it with some hate for some other people. Because Spike is a god, so we want to. But at the same time, I would, for me, my 2 cents is just like, I think it's just two different ways to play the game. I think at a certain point, Spike hit the exact same wall that John did in terms of his movies. Certain people in Hollywood, despite his success, despite his ability to self-promote, despite the recognition, Because they controlled or had a sense of control, they prevented him from making the truly transformative work that we would have liked to have seen, and for no apparent reason other than fear or saying that oh, black people won't pay to see this or it costs too much money. Like, they still want to ghettoize us in Hollywood, and that's what I think. And if you look at all of Singleton's movies, they were not expensive films by any stretch until you get to Too Fast, Too Furious, and that was because they had, he was hired late. They had no, and he saved the movie. But the reality is that we're still getting nickel and dimed, and if it's a choice for you to work in show business, you have to take on this maverick attitude. You cannot think that you can get away and play by their rules and it's gonna make you immune. The game has. Charles. This is a complete aside. Please bear with me, folks. I was watching Bossing Up with Snoop Dogg last night. Charles, have you seen this movie?
What's the name of it?
It's called Bossing Up, starring Snoop Dogg. It's on. I actually have it on DVD, but I was on YouTube, and interesting film because it's sort of like his version of the Mac. And they got the guy, the light-skinned guy that plays Red in 5 Heartbeats is like the main pimp, and and he trains him how to work the game, right? He's like, look, you got exactly what it takes to kill this game, and I'm gonna take you under my wing, right? And then he says, what you need to do, you need to find yourself the baddest chick out there and make her your number one, your bottom, right? So, but he ends up falling in love. That's the twist in the movie, right? He really, even though he won't slap her, he won't hit her in public. He said, "Look, you're not respecting the game." He's like, "I'm out here to change the game." Well, wouldn't you know? Game's impossible to change. The game has been going on since time was born, since cavemen. So we got to give it up to John Singleton for doing the best he could within that structure. Give us some classics, some not only hood classics, but Oscar caliber, not only an Oscar nominated, but Oscar winning classics, and living his dream that he had from the time that he was 9 years old, being at the highest level for a long time, not compromising, and continuing to give us work to inspire with the interviews that are out there, the audio commentaries, all that work, and the great many people who he personally touched, who I'm sure all have stories. But anyway, any final thoughts, sir?
No, this is a night to celebrate the life of John Singleton. Everything else is for another time. I want to thank the Reelblack family for their time to sit and listen to us. And I want, in closing, once again, deepest sympathies to the John Singleton family, and peace and blessings to the Reelblack family. And Mike, congratulations on the success of your Reelblack channel.
We're getting there. Yeah, I should. Thank you. I should. Well, yeah. Well, big ups, John Singleton. I'm blessed to have met you and known you. I shared my stories as testimony, and I just want whoever's watching, because we don't know who's watching or when they're watching or how they're going to be inspired. You certainly inspire me, and I just want people to understand that it's a bigger picture out there than just making a couple dollars. That this work, when you have lasting work that's classic, you get nights like this where Charles and I get to talk about you for an hour and a half. So please use the time, the morning period, or the thought, the fact that his energy is in the zeitgeist for this reason, to re-examine what he's done and then figure out how you're going to do it. But he's a true player in the greatest sense. Yeah. So thank you, John. So yeah, the big news, I can't announce everybody, but then I think I got to figure out how the sound thing works better, but definitely gonna be doing more podcasts with you, Charles. And I announced previously that I was gonna be in LA for the American Film Institute tribute to Denzel Washington in June. I'm curtailing that trip but I'm going to be in Las Vegas, Nevada for 4 days. And there's a great number of talented people, legends, I could say, that I expect to be interacting with and capturing for content on the channel. And right now we have confirmed. Are you ready for this, Charles?
Yeah.
Comedian George Wallace has agreed to sit down with us for an hour for a podcast. He's a legend. Met him in California. He's agreed to sit down with us. And then there's like a couple others that are not confirmed yet. I don't feel comfortable saying it, but also Lamont McLemore from the Fifth Dimension, who is responsible for a great number of the Jet magazine photos, including the iconic photo of Jane Kennedy that people used to have on their walls. He's going to sit down with us and share stories on camera about his career and some of his photography. So that's coming. And then folks go see Bolden this Friday. It's a transformative experience if you see it in theater. And I don't know if it'll be the same experience if you wait for the video, but it's a very powerful film. Is playing nationwide opening this Friday. And then also Tempted, I think it was Incident. The Incident with Michael Ealy is coming. Reelblack members will get a chance to see that tomorrow for free. And then also Friday, Long Shot with O'Shea Jackson Jr. is in theaters. So that's all I got. Any questions pop up here, Charles, before I let you go?
No, I would just like the Reelblack family to know that what can make us better as a channel is if we hear from the subscribers, what do they like about the channel? What do they want to see more of? One of the things I was so happy about is the Who Did It Better.
Mm-hmm.
I just love that because it's what I call clatter chatter discussions where you get different people's take on one interpretation of a song or someone's cover of the song. There's no right or wrong to it. It's just a matter of taste, but that's been very successful. And you agreed that you're going to allow for me to have some suggestions for Mother's Day tribute.
The Mother's Day mix.
Some songs dedicated to all the mothers out there.
You're going to have the Intruders on that mix. I'll Always Love My Mama.
Oh, you know, that's got to be there. That's got to be there. But if they have suggestions, let us know because Mike's a busy guy. He needs time for getting stuff ready. But you know, how many times can I say how much we appreciate the Reelblack
family, and we're trying to grow it. Yeah. Well, yeah. Thank you.
That's it.
Thank you, everybody, for watching. Yeah, and we're always open to suggestions. We're not trying to say by any stretch that we're perfection. We're here to learn and grow. And Charles, you know, the one thing, you know, when we're in the process of blowing up. I don't know if people can see it yet, but we're about to explode up in here. And what you give us back, not only in viewership, is encouragement for us to work harder. Because we talk about this all the time, Charles. I don't think anybody else is doing what we're doing on this channel specifically. And anytime there's a positive response, it makes us scratch our heads and dig deeper, and then also brings us energy where we discover things that we don't even know we're gonna need. Like the irony of Jim Brown saying that crap on the draft, saying it was 2013, and literally the day before I had a Jim Brown record come in the mail. So I said, wow, this is kismet. So I love when a plan comes together and like somebody's comment triggers a thought to make that's, oh, I can, you know, share that or maybe something more. So, you know, please keep the letters and cards coming.
You just put up the Abby Lincoln piece, and I got to keep my Abby Lincoln thing.
Well, I gotta show them. I'll show people that.
You know, I worked on that piece, and she was part of a group of used to write newspaper articles for this group, but I had to really keep my commitment as a married man because
Abby?
Me and Abby had hit it off, but I miss her. I love her, and right quick, Rob Lowe. If you see Tim, tell him I hope he's doing well. And I have a lot of the old heads from the chamber. They tune in, but I'm trying to make it. And like I said, once again, two of my strongest supports is Mike and Barry, and as well as my family. But I love everyone. Peace and blessings.
Yeah. Oh, before you go, I just pulled some of your lasers out. They're not transferred, but this is one you worked on. Do you think people would be interested in that one on the channel? I mean, the worst they can do is take them down. Shirley Horn, you worked on this, right?
Yeah, Shirley Horn.
This is from Charles's laser collection.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was gonna save this. I mean, we're winding down the screening series. We might just share this and see. Hopefully it won't.
Mike, I got dementia coming on, I think. But did you get a John Singleton thing signed for me as well, or not?
Yeah, I said I had two of them. Yeah, I gave it to you.
That hurt when we went to that place you discussed, and what a ripoff. I had stuff that was sealed, man, and wasn't that was
30
when we
cents a
came
pop.
out of that place, we were drained. Just how the value of stuff just went deplorably down, man. We were just so drained.
Well, the good thing, you're recycling. What were you going to do with it? Maybe somebody else could make use of it. But the sad thing was I went back a week later and not one of the discs that we sold to them were on the shelves. So it led me to think that they just found another place to sell it for way more than what they were sold it for in the store. But things come back around. I was able to find another one and get it signed for you. So I think at the end of the day, things work out. But at the time it did kind of sting a little bit. But I don't know. It's Cosmic Slop. If I put that up, they'll take it down, Charles. You think? You think or no?
I just got Rob Lowe says he's gonna talk to Tim, but I just hope Miss Bessie's okay. I love her, and just right quick, a lot of stuff what we put up, I've saved a lot of. No telling the people how much I've lost, but Tim was very instrumental in a lot of stuff I have. And I hope he's got an old bootleg of Do the Right Thing. We'll tell more about what that's all about. But
well, Do the Right Thing is coming out on Blu-ray, and they're saying they're going to put some deleted and extended scenes on the new Blu-ray in June. So maybe we'll see what happens. I'm not sure if that exists there, what we're talking about. But we're working on it. As soon as I log off, I'm gonna make live another thing from your archive, which is a TV special from 1994 with BBC and CC Winans and Sounds of Blackness. It seems like we have a lot of folks, spiritually minded folks that want more gospel music. So,
man, I told you, BB and CC, what voices? But I'm trying to hear James Cleveland, a good sound. A good record of I'm Going to Trust Him. And Alex Bradford's I'm Too Close. Those are two songs that took me through a whole lot of trials and tribulations. But to the gospel level, the thing you put up with Prayer Ward,
that's a big one.
Aretha Franklin, that did very well.
Yeah, and people should go see Aretha Franklin or Amazing Grace if it's playing in your town on the big screen. It's a great document, and it's definitely one that you're going to want to own when it comes out. If you're still collecting Blu-rays, it's a keeper. The fact that they filmed the recording of that classic album for a TV special that never aired, and then 30 years later they restored it and put it in theaters. It's just a blessing that we're in this point in time. So. Blaxploitation movies in full on this channel. Well, I'm trying to avoid things that other people already have up, and then also, as an artist, respectful of active copyright. So if it's something that people can rent and it's not considered public domain, I'm not going to risk a copyright strike or a block, because even if it's freely available, it's still 4 hours out of my day to render and upload a video, because the big feature film tends to be at least 5 or 6 gigabytes. So it's just not, at this point, if somebody else has something, we're not trying to open our own video store, are we? We're just trying to make things available that you wouldn't find elsewhere, and then build a conversation around them. I think, is that a fair way to say what our intention is, Charles?
Man, you just put that up. And like I said, when you did the Abby Lincoln thing, it just took me back to, I was working with Gene Davis, and we were putting these productions together. He wanted to do the Hattie McDaniel story, and he couldn't get the money. At the time, the biography station said no.
Yeah, which is interesting. It's what's interesting. I mean, we're trying not to get in trouble, but just people got the notification. We have a couple biographies up, but for whatever reason, we got flagged on the Dave Chappelle. So I was trying to help people, but I think that's where I tend to get in trouble trying to please everybody. So that's my personal issue. I'm open. Like, please, by all means, if you see something reminds you of something, you say it this way: it would be great to see blah 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 again. But it triggers something when you say, I like that. Do you have this? Or can you put this up next? So like if there's one episode of Unsung, that's all I really want to share. And a lot of the stuff we just simply don't have. It's just the blessing that Charles has been doing it for so long, and he would. You want to tell that part of the story? How did you amass the collection that you have?
I think a lot of it is it was a way of just keeping parts of my past, as I'm going to reveal in the technology documentary. I got 20 years. I got 2 decades on you and brother John Singleton. Mm-hmm. When Barry and I we were growing up, and I just had a discussion with Barry. Barry has something in my life I didn't have, and I explained that to him. He didn't have he had a mom and a dad in his life. Mm-hmm. I lost my mother early, and I never had my father. And so the role models, the people who I grew up emulating and wanting to be like, were the people on my TV set. Those were my surrogate brothers and sisters, and for a long time after my mom died, because there's nothing like your mom, but it was just a way of holding on to the past. So I have this gun collection, and I started collecting it. Taping everything because I always wanted to write history. Someone told me, write history, because history, the past is prologue to the future. And so one of the things, like I said earlier, what's inspiring me is sometimes I'll get up, Mike, and I'll have these moments of epiphanies where it becomes crystal clear that what I think I've seen, my analysis bears fruit. I'm not trying to prove my point, but I'm seeing that what I think is the cause of what's keeping us in this status quo condition. It's so vivid, and I can put the empirical truth through the videos, through the films. It's there, and so I dare anyone to challenge me on that, because I always look to eat up my argument. But when I can't eat up my argument, where the facts say no, you're right, then that's such a great feeling. It just crystallizes everything from
yeah, and we're trying to get our health together so that we can travel and get the word out more, because it's right now we're recording things, we're sharing them, but we have to. It's a small segment, and I'll address some of these things that are popping up. It's a small segment of the world that is tuned into this frequency right now, but so many people, in my own personal experience, when I walk up to people and they experience it, or I tell them about the channel, they get excited. And you were programming, curating, ran video store for 10, 15 years in New York. and then I bought for video stores for 20 years, so that also informs my knowledge, as well as making films, my own films, for 30 years. So all of that needs to be shared at a certain point. And this is a good form, but it also needs to be amplified. So we want more people to, as more people get into the game, we want more people to be aware of the history behind it. So, a lot of people, I think sometimes, like a Motown comes to returns to the Apollo, or something that people might remember if they were there, but I'd say 90% of the world wasn't even born in 1984. Maybe not 90%, but a great deal of YouTube viewers don't even know some of these things were even made, because they were aired one time. And Charles had the lucky the wherewithal to record certain things, so we're able to share those kind of things. But yeah, you can't fuck with YouTube. YouTube's a global corporation. They don't care. I mean, they have certain rules that are in place, and we just want to obey them. And but there was a time when I first started where I had accumulated too many copyright strikes, and the channel was shut down for 3 months. And I've had my friends go through it. So we're just trying to be as do our due diligence when it comes to posting videos, and try not to infringe on people. And the main thing is, if it's commercially available, if you can buy it, or if it's on Netflix, don't expect to see it on the channel, because that's a commodity to someone else. So somebody had mentioned something here. I just want to get to. Oh, Black Talkies on Parade. Big shout out to Mamie Clayton. That's another person I had the great privilege of meeting and spending time with. I know John Singleton definitely spent time with her, because she told me some stories. She was a big collector prior to you, and her collection. She was a librarian in Los Angeles, and she just started with clippings, and then ended up just accumulating a mass collection. Every Jet magazine ever printed, every Ebony magazine, Sepia magazine, she kept in a little, basically her garage in her backyard. And 16 millimeter film prints. She's sort of like the Charles Woods of Los Angeles, I would basically argue. And now her estate, her son carried it over. They're moving it out. It has a big Mamie Clayton library. You can go visit it when you're in Los Angeles, and see a lot of the great things that she saved. But
let's not forget Larry Richardson.
Larry Richardson in Philadelphia, without question.
Yeah.
Well, all of his stuff. We have access to the films that were in Larry's library, and we have an agreement to start putting some of those things on YouTube. You have seen a few of them. The Bill Bojangles feature film, and some things are from the Larry Richards collection. But also, but what was sad, what was good, was about half of his poster collection is now owned by the Smithsonian. And I think we were talking, when you're up to it, we're going to make a special trip down to DC and spend a weekend there, and go to the National Archives, and then spend a couple of days at the museum and do like videos. So, for those of you who haven't been to the museum yet, I've been a couple times, but it'll be great to see it through Charles's eyes. So that's something that we have planned. So
yeah, one of the regrets I have, I told you, I sat down with Ralph Cooper, the Bronze Bogart, and I had a copy of Dark Manhattan, which he didn't have.
Yeah.
And he wanted to do an introduction to it, but I was so tired of being burned by a lot of these guys. I declined, and now I regret it.
Yeah, well, you take things for granted. Like I forgot. I didn't realize. Somebody like John goes. It's like, wow. You think things are gonna be here forever. And I think also, days like this remind us all of our mortality. It doesn't. I mean, we have a plan. We have a strategy in place. And the goal is to put 3 videos up every day. So we're doing what we can to preserve the culture. But so much of and John, it's very interesting. I hope people take some time and watch that 3-hour interview with John Singleton. He talks about how all Black culture is commodified, and then we let go of it and we create new things. But we're at a time now where, because everything's available, all the information is available to everybody, we should be rediscovering and reclaiming a great deal of this stuff, especially when it comes to, and I think that's what Snowfall was really about, was trying to like make into art or reflect our experience of having to, where basically government brought drugs into all our communities. It's a form of genocide, and I think he, from his standpoint, looked at it as like, how can I create something that's compelling, that's entertaining around this issue, so that more people can receive it, as opposed to like making a small documentary where it's like directly going across the system. How can I put some subversive ideas into the bloodstream and the thought and the minds of the people I want to see the film? So I think that was what was great about Snowfall. But I could see in his face there was a lot of work. Like when he was promoting that show, I think he wanted it to go 5 seasons, and TV is a lot of work, and he was hitting every city. Like when he came to Philly, the next day he was going to be in New York, and the day before he was in Atlanta. And I was like, wow, this is a lot of wear and tear. But watching the interview, he seemed happy because he didn't have to go. Once he had his own TV show going, he was in charge. It was like his personal playground, and you couldn't hide the money the way they tend to do in Hollywood, which is they'll give you a salary and then that's all you'll ever see, even though the DVDs in every Walmart, they'll find ways to keep you from getting some money off of it. So, so we're working hard for you. And any comment other than I'm fat, I'm working on that, Charles. I don't like that. I know. Tell me something I don't know. Constructive criticism. I know I'm a fat fuck. So tell me something I don't know.
On there, eating again.
Food is delicious.
I couldn't take that. All that you're putting that food in the mouth.
Nobody said that the whole time. Look, I had a blast in New York. I was eating these Chinese dumplings, for those who didn't see the live stream, because they brought me. I had to go to New York. I had to pay on my own time, but they were gonna put me up in this hotel, nice suite, like a junior suite, $200, $250 a night to stay there, and I'm sitting there, and it would have cost me less. I didn't know the Chinese bus literally was a block from the hotel, so I get off in Chinatown because I know I'm in Chinatown. I like to get the little dumplings. So the dumplings, Charles, you get 10 dumplings for $3, right? So you can't turn that down. But it cost me $13 to get a cab back to the hotel. So you're probably right. I could have spared myself the dumplings, saved $19, gotten more sleep. And
it's not. We don't mind you eating the dumplings. We just don't want to see you eating the dumplings. That's what we're saying.
I'm a better film critic than a food critic. Food is good.
So you ain't the Black Galloping Gourmet,
I'll be stumbling and rolling soon. I gotta lose. People in Colombia do not look like people in America. I gotta lose weight. I'm gonna do something, James.
Shout out to Miss J. Jones. She just
Jay McLean. I'm gonna do something. It's big changes coming. It's just I think it's like I thought it was like one switch that you have to click in your brain, and that's why I went away for 3 weeks. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna reprogram me to like be living large, and that was just one switch. Then the next switch is like, in terms of like believing it, you need other people to believe. Thank you, Charles. You did not believe. When I came back, I was all enthusiastic, like, yeah, we can change the world. We can make millions. This is what we got to do. And every motherfucker I talked to was like, yeah, whatever, Mike. So I had to like go within myself more and be like, they don't know. They're too busy. What were you doing? Worrying about their feet. They're too busy. They don't see the same thing I do. And they've never seen what I've seen. Right. So I said, I started feeling like Iverson. Now, I didn't go out and bounce the ball that day, but I said, practice. Who needs practice? I've been here. I was chosen for this. I'm built for this. Y'all motherfuckers ain't built for this. I'll show you. And wouldn't you know, that's when the numbers started going up. I forget what the video was, but some Eddie Murphy saved us. It was Red Fox and Eddie Murphy. They put the numbers up, and now still working hard, but able to take more time. I have a bigger sense of security so that I can take more time and focus on the writing. So you're going to see a major transformation.
Mike, one of the things I look forward to with the channel is the diversification of it.
Wait, hang on. Gantz is eating pizza. You motherfuckers. I can't eat anymore. You blackballed me from eating on camera. Anyway, go on. So, Charles.
The diversification of it, where we get to discuss a number of things: entertainment, sports, music.
Yeah, we got to get into the Trump thing next. Yeah.
You look at what's happening with measles. The measles. That's a conversation. Someone just brought up the blood pressure medicine, and there are issues with a lot of this medicine. You know, this is turnstile medicine. They don't want to heal you. They want to
patch it, band-aids.
Keep you where you're just relying on all these pills. And I mean, I look at, oh my God, I don't want to put too much out there, but you look at some people's medicine cabinet, and they have to have 2 or 3 of them. It's a shame. So these are discussions to look at what's really going on in society, and not just get caught up in a lot of distractions that, you know, we spend so much time discussing R. Kelly, or maybe now the thing is what's his name? The comedian who just said something at the Image Awards about Jussie Smollett and what's his name?
Well, Chris Rock got in trouble too.
Chris Rock.
Yeah, he tweeted something about Whitney. They didn't like that yesterday.
Yeah. And then the thing with Oprah and Michael Jackson, you know, the thing is, what's really impacting our lives? How important is climate control? Does voting for a Democrat or a Republican, does it really matter to the real scheme of things? These kind of discussions, having discussions with authors of books where these people go into detail and they're explaining from their perspective the history of this and the history of that. We have a smart audience, and I like to appeal to the integrity of our audience in many different ways. That's what I look forward to with the future of Reelblack.
I appreciate that. We'll put that in the mission statement. Where the website is down. I just paid the bill, but I gotta find a web designer and hook that shit up. But we'll make that one of the missions. Thank you for that, Charles. I don't get followed. But somebody pointed out the posters. So they had a sale. Wolfgangs. I think I talked about wolfgangs.com before. And that's a great thing. I think for $30 a year, you have access. You can listen, live stream, like thousands of live recordings that were done by Bill Graham and interviews and stuff. And if you have the extra money, I think it is worth $30 a year to have access to a lot of that stuff. And they had a sale. Charles, are you ready for this? You just talk about this guy, but I've been wanting this this is something they had at Amoeba, and I just was afraid to ship it or have it sent to me. Amoeba has a lot of posters from. Did you see that one or no, Charles?
Which one's that?
So it's I don't see, when I got it, I'm like, I don't even know if this is like, they could be printing these all day. They claim they're limited edition, but it feels like a laser print, which is the nature of the printing. But I always like this image. I've had it on my wish list. It's 1997 concert. Well, what's interesting about it, even if it's not the first printing or whatever, it does advertise a specific show that Chris Rock did. So eventually I want to get that signed, so. And then I saw this when I was in my first trip to Amoeba. This was hanging up on the wall. Dave Chappelle poster, 2001 show. So when I run into Chappelle, I'm gonna get that hooked up. But Yes, I agree. So what I've been saying for a long time is the smart people are the ones that are going to win, right? Whether it's in money or anything, it doesn't pay to be stupid. You have to be informed about stuff. I mean, now access to the rooms and how do you get from point A to point B, that's networking and politics. But in a society where everyone benefits from other people's ignorance, when all the information is available, why are you watching the same thing over and over again? That's what I have a problem with. And then as things are revealed, everything that stimulates parts of your brain is some form of drug. So we all have to be careful how much, look at it that way, and be careful what we consume, what we put into our brains as much as what we put into our body. So we're trying to provide good answers, and appreciate everybody for watching. So amoeba, yeah, some West Coast people now. I don't know. I don't, on this stream. I don't get into the gossip because we're honoring John Singleton, who really is a kindred spirit, and what I took away from doing the research. He literally he could have been my brother, my cousin. The same factors and influences and convergences that inspired him to become a great filmmaker also were the moments that inspired me. Richard Pryor, TV, mass culture, and he just worked hard and stayed in it, and affected a lot of people. And my biggest concern is somebody who's here that can talk about those times and share those stories, as well as Charles, is that again, you don't know who's watching, and maybe there's somebody out there that can, just by having the information and the fact that the planet ties us together, they don't feel alone in their dream. And as we continue to share information, you never know what piece of video or film is going to make people see things differently and say, hey, there's a way that I could not only tell the stories that I like, but also not be a detriment or damage to the community. And I think that's what technology is ultimately going to expose people to, the fact that so much of this stuff is part of the brainwashing. So can I get a job? Can you get off live? Just hang the fuck up. Why are you hating? Just go away. Watch something else. Anthony Bradley, you stay long enough, you get some hater. I'm confused, Anthony. How do I delete this fool? All right. Well, thank you for watching. No, you're being, all your comments, Anthony, are being deleted because you know something, Charles. This is the last thing I'm gonna say. People like Anthony who are watching us for free, they're gonna feel bad when they gotta pay. Oh, he hung up. Oh, you're still there. We're gonna charge real money for this soon, and my friends, they're gonna block you as well. Okay, so we just remove Anthony. All right. Well, we love you all. Peace and blessings. Thanks for watching. Last words, Mr. Woods.
No, peace and blessings to the family, and just be safe, be well, and we love you.
Yeah, and we love you, and don't look at it as a loss, but just job well done. I think everybody should take the lessons there. Stick to your vision, help inspire your community, open the door for the next generation.
Barry for joining us. That's my brother.
Indeed. All right. Peace. Have a great night. And now I'm gonna go eat. Lots of food. F y'all. I love you, really, for real. F y'all.
Yeah.
I love you, really.
R.I.P. for sure, John Singleton.